holiday has 3 days off, and then.
Right, we
So,
met Thursday.
yeah,
We are live and
just ask,
recording.
and then we'll just,
All right, everyone, we're live and recording. We are 1 minute ahead of time, so I'll start this meeting at 6:29. And new on our agenda, our number one is a TA update. I don't know.
Gotta get the Zoom and slow today.
While you're doing that, I'll just ask one quick question. Will we do 2 sets of minutes next meeting?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'll have that next week.
I figured with the holiday, and we were just here yesterday.
Right, plus your meeting was Thursday, so technically she has until Thursday
Yeah.
to turn
And it went to like
around.
midnight, yeah.
Recording in progress.
One, and I think it's like Sharon. Okay. Okay, so I don't really have any new updates quite yet that would really pertain to tonight. So when your books were printed, we were in the process of open enrollment, so that's where all of the employees can opt to change their health insurance plans because we get the new rates in October. They have until, it was actually Friday, to get me their any changes if they had any in the insurance, because the rates go up or, well, they never usually typically go down, but we have had them go down in the past. But the rates either go up or down, so they can change their plan, add family members, get off it if their spouse's insurance happens to be better than ours. So Friday was the last time. The only ones who I didn't get prior to, and I can look at them when it comes to this section, was the police department. So for tonight's discussion, I think we're all set with them. So if I do have changes, I will let you guys know if there was any that were changed after the fact for this meeting. And then I was asked to kind of give a little more overview and discussion on the defaults and what it kind of really means for everyone, and kind of the importance, and kind of highlighting more of what it really, the effect it had on the departments in the town as a whole, budget-wise. So when you take the warrant articles alone, so those are everything that is not in your operating budget. We did not have $1.335 million of warrant articles pass. So instead of saying, just kidding, we didn't really need those this year, so we're not going to ask for them again, really, because you missed out on that much money, in theory, you would want to be asking for that plus this year, because those capital reserves are our savings account. So in theory, we really should be asking for $2.7 million. But I don't think that's what the Board of Selectmen are going to do this year, because that's a lot to stomach for the taxpayers. So you're losing that whole year of savings in those accounts. So just kind of putting that into perspective of how a default can really affect you and how long it can take to get out of there, because when you add that 1.3 into the 7, and I'm gonna use round terms, around the 700 that we didn't get past in the operating budget, now you're looking at a $2 million loss. So when people are saying, oh, you increased your budget by $2 million, well, we really didn't. We're just asking for what we asked for last year that we didn't get, that we still need to keep continuing to ask, because we're not lying here. We're not saying, oh, just kidding, we really didn't need that money. We really do need that money to run the town. To kind of highlight, you know, a comment is made, oh, the board took away Old Home Day to punish the people. No, the board didn't take away Old Home Day to punish the people. We still had Old Home Day, and it was funded by volunteers and donations, and that's how Old Home Day really should be ran. So they looked at it as a needs versus a wants. When we came together in March, and the board tasked me and the department heads with saying, all right, we're at a loss of the 700, because the 1.3 only buy highlighters, you can only buy highlighters. So we can't add money, we can't take away from those capital reserves. But the operating budget, the board of selectmen have a little bit more, well, have all the flexibility to move funds around. So we came to the department heads and we said, all right, we have the 700,000 to make up. What are we gonna cut in the budget to make up? What is the most important things for us that we can live without or prolong, and what do we wanna make whole? And their real look was making whole wages and the service contracts that we are obligated to pay contractors who tell us what their price is for that year, regardless whether we have a budget passed or not, and we need those services like to run those departments. When you look at the 750,000 that was lost for the road projects, and I don't have Craig here to speak to this, but I know on his road plan was doing Middle Route. Now Middle Route's gonna get pushed off another year or more if we don't get that funding back in. So what happens there is you have another road, or all roads that were in the road plan now being extended one more year out. That's one more year of wear and tear on people's vehicles, one more year of wear and tear on DPW vehicles, which in the end costs us money, whether we have to fix residents' cars because of potholes or damage, or we're replacing blades on the plow trucks because of the road's disrepair. The other thing that didn't pass, which really surprised me, was the near $10,000 into the information technology capital reserve. Saving aside in that account allows us to make necessary upgrades to technology, such as a new website, servers, non-contracted equipment, new equipment upgrades to computer programs, and programs that we use every day to run the town, such as AP, payroll, and tax collection. This year, our major software program was bought out by another company, so we're in that process of, do we go with a new company, do we look elsewhere? And a new software upgrade could cost you $50,000 to $70,000, and if you are not tucking away that money each year, you're taking more of a hit to the budget. And kind of your guys' charge is to keep your budget flat instead of having such high spikes, which results in your tax rate changing so much. Which you don't want to have high then a low, high then a low. You want to have very small incremental changes. The other one that didn't get funded, which is very hot topic for everyone, is the $75,000 in the assessing capital reserve. Everyone thinks like, oh, if I don't fund this, they're not going to do another revow. Well, that's not true. The capital reserve was created to fund, the state of New Hampshire requires at a minimum that each town do at a minimum 5 years, do a full measure and list. Our next full measure and list is slated for 2029. The quote we got to do that in 2029 is $310,000. That's why we saved the $75,000 each year, so that come that time to utilize that money to pay that bill, it's already paid and covered, and you've saved a little bit each year, instead of being like, oh, this year I'm gonna add 310 to 0, so now you're spiking. And if we don't, we still have to move forward with the measure and list in 2029, and if we don't, the board of selectmen have to take it out of the operating budget, which means $310,000 could possibly be taken from police, fire, highway, any other budget, but they have to pay it, so they would have to find the funds somewhere else. So it's not kind of this thing of like, oh, we're not gonna fund it, we don't do it, let's close our eyes. No, we still have to do it. The other one that was not passed was the $500,000 in the municipal facilities account. This capital reserve was created to fund expenditures that arise during the year that are kind of unplanned. We've used those funds to replace the roof at the fire department. We've used it to replace garage doors that suddenly malfunction or weren't working anymore. We've replaced heating, things that arise that we can't wait a whole year to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, we need a new roof on town hall. Can we now have money in March? So we set aside money for that, those unexpected repairs. What the board also did a few years ago was started to set aside specific amounts of money for the rehab of the mill, so that we could fix a little bit of rehab here, a little bit of rehab here, instead of taking a huge bond out for to rehab this whole thing. So their thought process was, again, leveling out the amount that of the tax burden to do this. So now, we're another year behind on renovating this place so that those people at Town Hall can move over here. I mean, I have staff in closets. I can't even find a place to put another filing cabinet, and we're still not 100% digitized, so we are still paper everything. I mean, I might have to put people in the basement all by themselves, but we do have people utilizing closets. And I encourage you all to, if you haven't been to Town Hall, which I know you all have, just to take a peek where I stuff people here and there, and
I got
look at
lost.
how crammed we are, and you'll see the need to move us over here.
It's crazy.
So again, those are articles that failed with the 1.3, mirrored with or added to the 700,000 deficit. In theory, you're making up that still this year. That doesn't just go away. So yes, it looks very drastic when we're comparing what passed between the warrant articles and the operating to what we're asking for today. But that's the reality when we go into default and so much gets voted down. Does that help explain kind of where we are when we're looking at the default and why the numbers kind of look the way they are? And anyone have questions about the default? I know we're not really there at this point. The default really doesn't come until later. Just wanted to give another overview if that helps. And Tracy, did you have any more questions on it? Or any more explanation that I can give for everyone? And I know it's kind of, some people ask, well, what did you cut? Well, we cut a lot. I mean, we went through every line and said, do you really need, this much? Can you cut this? And, there are departments who, because, and I'll take Jen, you'll see that later, in the elections and registration, the elections budget, in 23, we only had 1 election. In 24, we had 5 elections. So we've already blown that 23 default budget way out of the water. I can't tell people, sorry, Belmont's not having a presidential election this year because we don't have it in the budget. We still have to have it. So that budget got blown out of the water. So that means somebody else's budget is going to take that hit to make up for it so that we don't go over the default. Same where that $700,000 came from. We all, in all the departments, and I was very happy that they all did it very willingly, cut so that this budget can be whole and that budget can be whole and that budget can be whole. And I tried to stress that. What if it was you whose budget didn't pass? What if it was your employees whose union contract didn't pass? You would want everyone else to help you make you whole too. So we all had it. Everyone helped out, and
well, and obviously the police union did not pass. So there's a lot of work that goes into these union contracts. They're not easy. I think I've sat on 3 or 4 of them. And I think if I was a police officer and my raise got voted down and we're not being paid like our police officers we're not keeping up with what's around us, I'd be a little, why bother? Okay, or I go to Laconia and get a bonus and get far more or wherever. And we're down. We have, if you look at the police department, and I think that's next week, you can look at it now, we're pretty top heavy, but we have our senior people out patrolling because we don't have enough police officers on the road. That's not what they're paid to do. And, but they're out there. But again, and we'll be able to talk about that next week, a good portion of our senior people in that police department could retire tomorrow. They have their time in, they could be gone. So, these kind of things, we need that contract signed. We need that contract, it'll be on the ballot again this year. This will be the last year, because we start union negotiations probably August of 25 for another 3 years. And it's not gonna go down. I mean, it's not gonna go down. So there's a lot behind the scenes. And I think we've said as a board, our department heads were very fortunate in this town. We went line by line, and they're running by the skin of their teeth so that we don't go over. we can't go over budget. We have to stick with the default budget, and we're very fortunate to have the dedicated people that are working for us right now.
And then just to highlight for some of the new people, I know we didn't say this at the first meeting, but the budget season starts in September. The budget, the department heads get their, these sheets, basically what you have in front of them with their blank column, and they're taking their actual, they're going to their vendors and saying, what's my quote for next year? And they're seeing where they're at, so they have all of September to do that, then it comes back to me, and then they all meet with me during, or am I wait, yeah.
You're off a month.
I'm off a month. They start in August, they meet with me in September, we scrub, we go over everything to make sure it's in line, that they've accounted for everything, and then I hand it off as recommended to, or not recommended to, the Board of Selectmen, and then they take all of October to do the same process with the department heads. They go through each budget individually, make, increases or decreases, or, suggestions, and then it gets to you guys at this point. So it has been very well gone through by many sets of eyes, and then you're the final stamp, and off to the doors. All right, that's all I'll say.
I have one question for Colleen before we start. At the end of our last meeting on Thursday, you were looking for the sign-in sheet with people's name, and I still haven't seen one.
So last week, somebody took home a sheet that has everybody's name and phone number and email address on it.
If you all don't mind taking just a look at the,
Kurt said that
It came down, I passed it to Tyke.
Uh-oh.
did you put your name on a list?
Hate to throw you under the bus, but.
I never got it, and I know that Colleen looked for it after a bunch of us, we were all getting ready to leave, and she's like, where's my list? So if you don't mind just taking a look, and we won't pay attention to who has it.
Yeah.
We'll move on. If it just shows up over there, that would be great. And then we'll start with land use.
It's just some general information for y'all. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'll kind of start with a brief introduction. Some of you know me, some of you don't.
You got
My name is Karen Santoro, I'm the town planner.
What's the thing?
I actually,
What's this?
3 votes.
What?
But we'll start with 1.
Would you do me one favor? I don't think, just introduce yourself for everyone. We have a lot of new members. You did, and I'm looking at Tyke doing that. I'm sorry. And I'm looking at Tyke, looking at the list, going, sorry.
Wait a minute.
I told you I had it.
Did you wanna check yours?
Well, let's start that again. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Santoro, the town planner.
Oh, my
It's
goodness.
just one of those.
It's one of those
things. Yeah, I've been with the town actually since April of 22. I took the position of town planner technically in March of 23, end of March, beginning of April. And have kind of been working through, I also have taken on the role of kind of supervising both building and codes department as well. So I kind of have my overview of everything. What you have going around is just a information sheet that actually Colleen was really good in helping me put together, just as to what land use is, because some people just don't know. And this is just a general invitation to everybody. If you don't know and wanna know what my office does, please stop by. Give me a call, stop in.
I'm sorry, Karen. Apparently, we're really bad at passing papers.
I'm working on it.
No, not that. What she handed out.
Oh,
It should be working its way around. Just have a
I think it's the
one-page sheet.
Tyke's right. Maybe not. Okay, never mind.
Kind of looks something like this.
Okay.
It's just, like I said, it's just a general overview of the departments, just to give everybody an idea.
just a minute. We seem to be in a little, get all this paperwork around.
Where is it? I think it's next to Tyke, right?
Tyke, you gotta pass
How's
that.
everybody looking at me for?
You gotta, is that, you gotta pass that down?
Oh my God.
What, that?
I don't know.
That's not mine.
Oh. What were you
Who's
passing
got
out?
the packet of paper?
It should look like
It's
this.
just a sheet of paper.
Where did
How
it
far did they
stop?
make
It
it?
should stop somewhere, there was about 15 copies, so somebody stop filing.
Oh my God. How many copies did you really need?
You just need one, take one, pass it down, it's like in
Take
school.
one, pass the rest on.
What the hell one you want, these?
Yep.
Take one.
How the hell I get all them?
Thank you, Karen, I'm sorry.
Like I said, it's just kind of.
Now the rest of us have it.
Now the rest of you, yeah, we'll share with the rest of the class. But like I said, it's just a general overview of all the departments, kind of what land use does, what building codes and conservation, and kind of the role. Land use is kind of the overall of all those departments. I will be presenting, I've got them in order, land use is first. But, like I said, a general comment about all the budgets, and they all are very conservative. I'm a taxpayer in town, I own property in town, so it also behooves me to be conscientious when I do make my own budget, or the budgets for the department, so. But without further ado, if you would like me to just kind of, do you wanna do them in sections, or?
We'll make a motion on that, if you just wanna tell us a little bit about the
Well,
last year for the Office of Town Planner.
Yes, last year, you do have a sheet in your books, which kind of is a summary up until the end of October, the 24th, technically. Which does give you an overview of the number of applications that we have had. It's a little bit deceiving, although our numbers for planning board applications are down a few at the end of October, we'll probably level off about 24. Zoning board applications are down some, but that doesn't mean we are not busy. The continuations, as you're kind of looking at those numbers, all that simply indicates is there weren't a lot of applications that have been continued meeting to meeting to meeting, when they have been completed in a single meeting.
There we go.
Some of the smaller site plan applications that are pretty straightforward. And then ARC applications are down, although we've got a few more coming, so we'll probably round the year out at about 14 or 15, just knowing what's kind of coming our way. So we have been very busy, you know, our applications are down, the office is bouncing right along. Because land use is kind of the general information for anything with your property, we get calls all the time, and as you know, real estate, even though it is slowing down a little bit, people will call about a piece of property, what do I need to know, is there something wrong, what can I do, especially the commercial properties, the biggest question, I'm looking at this piece of property, what can I do with it? Of course, we also come right back with, well, what are you looking to do, and then let's kind of start a conversation. But, like I said, we are very busy, and also, I'm actually, probably going to curse myself, not from over here, I'm up to full staff.
And I don't know how you fit them all in that room.
That is, yes, that is a rather unique challenge, and like I said, that's kind of the invitation, is please stop by and see my office. My office, we're heading for a mezzanine level at this point. I've got two people with the land use tech and the admin share an office. My office is full of plans and paper, as Alicia kind of alluded to. We have no more room for able filing cabinets. And even the ones we have are getting to the point we're shoehorning paper in there. Even in the building office, on that end of things, there's the building official and his clerk share an office, and then the land use clerk that sits out front kind of has but his office is also where we have all the applications, we have all, there's a lot more, and the public computer is there, so. We like to prefer it if it's cozy versus cramped, but we're on top of one another.
Yeah, but there's no privacy.
No,
No.
no.
If you wanna have a conversation with a client, it's,
Typically, if we're fortunate enough that the conference room in front of Alicia is available, then of course we have to pour Alicia into her office, and, if we wanna meet with somebody, but there's no place to meet with anybody, we have no place to sit down. My office is, I know Don's been in there a few times, he can tell you, there's no place, I'm kind of across a table from you, a desk and a table and stacks of plans, and it's tight, it's really, really tight.
I mean, that woman is sitting at a little desk, and got no room around it. It's just, if somebody gets sick,
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be sick.
Oh, we like to share. A dream of mine, honestly, and it sounds like a silly thing, is to have a place to unroll a set of plans. That I can, when I get plans, you are talking 24 by 32 sets of plans, I have no place to unroll a set of plans and do an actual review. It's shift everything around and hope nothing falls. We are very, very, very tight on space.
It was never meant to have that
Many people and that much
many
stuff.
people in there, and, for the last 25, 30 years, we've been trying to, you know,
It's awful.
upgrade. It's the last venue that has to be done. Fire department, police department, you know, highway, and the town hall, we've been trying to get into this place here, and, there's one thing after another, but to me, I would think that if, I know everybody wants to stay together, but you gotta have some space. I mean, there's all kinds of space downstairs in this building.
Oh, you meant the basement.
No,
What did I ever do?
downstairs on the second floor, there's plenty of room down there, but we just gotta, bite the bullet and get planning department something moved, cause, can't keep going this way. Who knows when you're gonna be able to do any work on this building?
Well, one thing that,
I don't see this year, next year, can't, so I think what, my opinion is that gonna have to get some paint and brush and, move some people over here. Just gonna have to do it.
I think the problem is that the files. Structure. Right, the files are so used by everyone that it's all fine and good, but we'll be spending more money, people walking back and forth. That's the problem we run into. Cause we've had this discussion before, do we bring planning, but everyone shares these files. You know, I can only listen to our employees and it's, yeah, there'd be a trail back and forth, I guess.
But the problem's gonna be is that, you know, people working in those conditions are gonna say, I got a better job, we're gonna have a nice office and stuff, and get out of there, you know, it's sad. For the town being worth over $1 billion and we can't have a planning department, it's crazy.
Well, when you only have 700 and something people show up to vote for a town budget, yeah.
Well, the thing is that
I agree.
they've gotta understand the conditions as you're working on it. I mean, I can remember,
But they should understand the conditions, even when you come in to register a vehicle, or you come in to do anything, you're standing in the hallway, people stand in line, people sitting there, you know, the conditions are there. They choose not to.
well, they're only there for 20 minutes, a half an hour, and then they're gone until next year. So they don't care, they're not working in those conditions. So, anyway, that's my opinion.
I'll take a motion to open
Would
this
you
up.
like me to 0141911101 to 0141911507?
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone's free, by the way, to make that motion,
Yeah, I don't have to make.
and
them
they
all.
can do that as many, okay. Discussion?
When I was reviewing the numbers, I noticed that the column under the 24 default budget line was off.
So as I had stated in the first meeting, the default is still a work in progress, and the default is last year's with plus or minuses that are allowed by state statute. So there are some things where we can go above what the default was last year.
Which is
What line
fine.
did you
It
have
was
in
just-
question?
It was the total. The column doesn't add up.
What do you have?
It should be 397,016, and then that gives you the difference of the 22,000.
The difference, I have 39288. The difference is the difference between what was requested and the default. Not,
If you add up all the numbers in that column, it doesn't come to 368,000.
The 2024 default number?
So the third column over, 2024 default.
oh, you said 24 default.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
While Alicia's looking at that, I'll ask a question. Legal is down 6,000? I'm taking that as a good thing?
yeah, well, it is, legal is also kind of legal and professional.
Okay.
When the budget was done for when the prior planner was here, there was some money built in for potential professional, consultant.
Mm-hmm,
So combination of not needing that,
mm-hmm,
that ain't happening.
yeah.
And then also being able to utilize other resources, we were able to reduce that utilizing, like New Hampshire Municipal Association has a free legal advice for kind of general questions so that we're not constantly reaching out to. If we have incident specific or, very client specific type questions, then we reach out to our legal team, but for kind of general questions, we can reach out to NHMA and they get back to us within usually 24 hours. So we were able to reduce that line item.
What assistance do we get from Lake Region Planning Commission?
In the past, we've gotten very little. This year, what we are looking to do, and actually, the land use tech he's on the executive council or committee over there, they're meeting tomorrow, because we are looking at the master plan, because the master plan is woefully out of date. It's 22 years old, should be done every 10 years. Lakes Region Planning Commission, we've reached out to them for some assistance, kind of a combination of some of the stuff the land use staff can do, but obviously being overburdened with just the sheer number of people, we don't have enough people to do some of the data analysis and some of that type of analysis. So the intent is this year is to utilize their services to help us with the master plan, but we have been exploring how much do we actually benefit from them going forward, because we know, and that's usually a growing expense every year. There's a whole formula they use, which I've included in your books, but how they reach their annual fee. And that number that's in there, where am I? 7,110 is the number that, their executive council has to agree on it, but that's the number for next year.
Because the Lakes region obviously is gonna even get worse as far as development and people moving in and the pressures for all of the communities. I see that over at the Anchorage across the lake, being developed over there, that hasn't come online yet, but just the added traffic lights and everything on Route 3 is putting pressure on our interior roads, like Union Road.
Correct, people
So
will hop
if
across.
people wanna avoid that, and so that's gonna put it puts a lot of pressure on us as far as, traffic counts and all the other stuff. So I just was wondering,
Well, one advantage is the land use tech, Rod is also he is the liaison to the traffic advisory committee from Lakes Region Attack. So I know that he started to reintroduce that, he's become more active, so hopefully we can start to get some feedback and some help, I guess, for lack of a better term.
thank you.
Did we have a new number under that, Alicia, what it should have been?
So the number that was reported and voted on by DRA is, again, you really are just concerned with the bottom line, is 368,117.
Okay.
I'm trying to see what was different later on or after the fact. That's what was reported by DRA, so that's what the budget is. 368,117 is the default.
And going through one of the other items that did go up, a little bit, you'll see the $3,000 increases for the tax map update. That is simply taking, when they go out and add new structures and adjust the maps, that's using kind of the current numbers using the numbers from last year as far as the number of pickups, which is the number of buildings they place, and kind of using that as our best estimate, because we kind of have to look at the building side a little bit to see how many, permits are going out to kind of estimate as far as numbers for homes and things like that, that would require some adjustment on the tax map. So that is utilizing those numbers and coming up with that, because we are probably going to be over a bit this year, simply because of the numbers of changes. But the others are, most of the other obligations that you see, the increases are things like insurance, retirement, that's.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So at this point, I need a motion on the total from the select board's budget for the minutes. Ruth can't,
Good look
it
at
has
it.
to go into the minutes.
Yeah.
On that You mentioned it?
Well, but I'm hoping somebody else would say, step in, man, okay. 419,066.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. So what we have to have into the minutes at the end, the second motion, is the total into the minutes. So it needs to be made a motion and a second, and so moved,
And as recommended by.
and as recommended by the,
If it matches.
yeah. Which is what
Yes.
Ron's
Okay,
was saying, I'm sure.
all right. As recommended by the selectmen.
So on to budget, building inspection, and
So building inspection, road enforcement, again, I've been very busy office, the numbers that we've done it, have not gone down, as you can kind of see on the back of that kind of overall sheet. Even the building permit numbers as of the end of October are 306, whereas last year it was 294 for the whole year. So we're humming right along. To give you an idea, just as a general sampling for some of those permits, just so that you kind of have an idea, for single-family residences, there were 24 just homes built, there were 5 that were some demolition and a rebuild, so there were 29 single-family home permits just this year alone. We also had 8 manufactured homes that were new on the rolls, and then 1 that was in demolition and a kind of reinstall. Some of the other bigger things that we had 4 barns, 8 garages, and 13 additions. And you know, and there are also a lot of other smaller permits, decks and things, sheds, things like that, that make up those numbers. And that 306 also includes your driveway permits, as those are filtered through that office as well. But again, looking, like I said, that just kind of gives you some general numbers, and I would just, I don't know, need to make the motions, so I can.
yeah, we will need a motion.
I'll move 0142401101, 0142409999.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
See, most of the numbers, we again, I was very conservative in working with the numbers. We had, one of the decreases that you can see following across is for postage. We also do the same thing in menus and all across the board, but utilize email as much as possible. Simply with the sheer cost of postage, it didn't make sense. What we also started doing is when someone requested their building permit be mailed to them, if they don't want to do it, then we do request that they provide us a self-addressed stamped envelope so that we don't incur the postage to mail it to them. You know, for them, it's one stamp, but for us, if we continue, it adds up to a fairly significant number. But again, we try to use email as far as much as possible. But the bulk of them there, like I said, we do have professional services, there's a few changes there for some ICC code updates. The state has now gone to 2021, so there's a few, but the ICC may follow suit with some updates. For the most part, the others are, the other increases would be your FICA and Medicare insurance, those type of things that we really don't have a whole lot of control over. We did budget a little bit more money in the vehicle repair and maintenance this year's increase of $750. That is a 2017 Ford Explorer, which, knock on wood, has been very good to us, but it is going to need some like a transmission maintenance next year to keep it going, and potentially undercoating it to try to preserve it as long as we possibly can. The building official is conservative and tries to, and as I've also asked the clerks when they're making his appointments, try not to send him from one end of town to the other and back again if at all possible. I mean, it happens, it's the way it is, but it also helps those few miles that you can save, preserves that vehicle even longer. But we try to do our best to keep that down, and most of the other expenses, just some general expenses, some minor increases there. We did, last year, try to get a few things ahead, a few extra things, supplies, but things like stop work orders and placards like that, we need to get a new supply. We've run almost completely down, so. But other than that.
Is he working 40 hours a week?
He is 40 hours a week. He is building official / code enforcement, so he does both. Right now, he has been, this past 3 weeks, he is all over town with building permits, but as we're getting into that fall, people are buttoning up projects.
Who is he?
His name is Glenn Karen. We actually, I won't say stole, that's kind of a negative term, but we acquired him from the city of Laconia. He came on board when, he was contracted for a few weeks and then he came on full-time in March.
He's not here tonight.
No, he is not.
So what's he, he deals with, all kinds of issues, right?
He's building and code enforcement.
Right. So junkyards and all of that stuff.
Or, yeah, junkyards, aquifer protection, all of that falls under his, he does all those inspections. I kind of oversee everything, but that's his day-to-day operation.
Because they take like Union, Hurricane Road, I mean, they were infringing out onto the road a lot of times.
Yeah, we try to keep them in check. If he sees it, he will stop it, especially with the junkyards, because you have, it's three right fairly close together, and he does do their annual inspections. Yeah.
So, we're never gonna clean that up, are we?
We are forever hopeful.
Father died young.
It's been there since Romney.
Which,
Romney.
which one is that one?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I missed that, which one was
Oh,
that?
that's all right.
Hurricane.
It's,
Romprey, that's the
Romprey,
word.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going there as a kid.
So, I guess, all right.
Any further questions? No more discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
you should also ask if there's anyone that's not voting. Yes
Oh,
or
yeah.
no?
Is anyone abstaining or not voting? Okay. Yes.
Okay, so 142,656 is recommended by the selectmen.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. How'd we do, Colleen? That's like after 7, we finally got it done? Okay.
Well, Ernie. Not easy when you got old folks.
All right.
Right, Dyke?
So
What's
last but
that?
not least.
Moving right along, budget number 3, Conservation Commission. Last year, a lot of those items were deeply reduced or eliminated altogether. But this year, again, the bulk of the budget is salaries. There's an hour of my time per week that comes out of the Conservation Commission budget, and the land use technician is 4 hours per week. We are requesting a little bit, requesting $2,000 for professional services. There are some Conservation Commission parcels. $2,000 will not get them surveyed, but there are some issues we want to kind of identify specific portions of a boundary because we believe we have some encroachment issues, that type of thing. So, again, being conservative because obviously we all know that surveys are, especially some of those larger parcels, would be extraordinarily expensive. But trying to stay conservative while protecting the parcels. And again, they're invasive species management, mouthful. I say glossy buckthorn one more time. But that's an increase of $1,000. That covers both the invasive species in Lake Winnisquam as well as the invasive species that are currently on a lot of these town parcels. And again, the intent is never to eradicate, that's just not gonna happen, but to control what we can in certain spaces and preserve, especially the ones in the water. The lake obviously is a draw for the town, and the town reaches there, so it behooves behooves everyone to try to keep them in check.
I know they treated Increase Cove last year,
Yes.
or this year, I guess,
Sales this year.
and several others, so. They're trying to keep on after it, but, it's,
The reason they call it an invasive.
well, that is knotweed and,
Yes, there's,
and all the other ones, you know. Bittersweet, we're just never gonna win that battle.
I know, and it's one of those things like bittersweet, the autumn olive is another one that's getting quite pervasive. They have berries, and what do the birds eat, and where do they go? So, we can try to keep it in check. One of the big things that had come up this past year was the glossy buckthorn that is in a few of the conservation areas. you're never gonna eradicate it, but if we protect some of the other trees which provide cover, it helps keep it in check naturally because of the shade. So there's ways to kind of control it. You're never gonna completely eradicate it. It's there. Some of them were even actually introduced by the Department of Agriculture, so.
Right. You're right.
Well, they thought it was a good idea at the
I
time.
know, it was gonna be the
Multi-floral
multi-floral rose, it was going to be take the place of, fencing.
Yep.
And they gave it to the farmers to use.
Hmm.
But, so that was basically,
Like
those were the
fishy
bigger
cats.
increases. The Conservation Commission, their general expenses, that general expense line covers everything from their, someone goes to a seminar to they need paper clips. They don't have a separate supply line and everything.
So who walks the town boundaries these days? The selectmen?
And me.
It was recently perambulated on the Canterbury side, so we're,
I mean, those posts are supposed to be remarked every so many years, right?
yes, Rod Cameron just went out, last Friday and did the perambulation with Canterbury, so. It hasn't actually been done since 2007.
Oh, I can believe it.
Well, with
'Cause I
a
know
lot of
Ruth's not
modern
walking it.
technology, for the most part, that is starting to kind of go by the wayside because of all the modern ways to do things, but
Good old
he
GPS.
perambled till, he,
Well, with GPS now,
exactly.
he's to do,
But they did go out, he was out just this past week on that portion of it.
I'll take a motion. Anyway,
I'll move 0146001101 to 0146000506.
Second.
discussion. I gotta tickle.
You gotta take one. Your contract.
Mm-hmm.
and move on.
Here are no, questions. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
You,
I did find
what-
the errors in the, default. It looks like there must have either been either a carryover or handwritten in the section. It does look like the 24, what was that? In back in the lane is what I'm talking about, the 24 default. It looks like the errors are by the committee, the health insurance, the life insurance, and the dental. That's where I'm finding the errors. So if you want me to tell you what they were
No.
reported, but I just put them in and then I get 368,117.
Thank you, Karen.
You still on this one? We
Someone
didn't
needs
do
to
the
make a
selectmen's.
motion to accept
Yeah,
the
we were
report.
waiting for a selectman's motion.
That's what I was gonna do. $21,046 as recommended by the selectmen.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Abstaining? So moved.
Thank you very much. And if anyone wants to see what that office does, you're more than welcome to stop me anytime. We see you running around.
They take care of.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. I carry,
I'd still be,
I remember how dry this building is.
I don't know, something just went down wrong.
Hello.
Yeah.
So you had fun last week?
Oh boy, time of my life, especially with the voting machine not working from the get, but we went back to our training and handled it quite well, I think, and shockingly, there wasn't a lot of chatter on the community page. I think overall, it went as well as it could.
Had a big
We were
turnout.
lucky because the representative from the Attorney General's office was there, that whole scene, so,
Yes.
I mean, what are they gonna do?
Well, nothing.
He was observing.
Machine's a machine. They're
So
great.
we went back to Old Faithful and opened up the box.
But we had to open the cover because the new ballots don't fit in.
No,
You
Slot,
gotta
you gotta
make
make
a bigger slot before next time.
I'll talk
get
to
a bigger
Patrick.
box too.
Well, that, but because the other problem is you don't wanna fold the ballots, because then when the machine got there, it wouldn't accept the ballots if they're all creased.
Well, actually, in the testing process, which we did the Wednesday before the election, everything was fine, just putting that out there. The Secretary of State's office requires us to fold ballots to put through the machine, because when we get the absentee ballots back, they are all folded in the envelope, so it, in theory, it should.
But you usually have to do all this.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
you help with that,
No,
yeah.
not easy.
Tell us about your year.
All right, well, I am Jennifer Gashman, I'm the town clerk tax collector. I don't know if everybody's aware of what all my office does, but we handle motor vehicle registrations, elections, vital records, dog licensing, tax collecting, lien processing, deed processing, and water and sewer collection, and there's probably a couple other things that I forgot to list. As you know, I came back last October in my position, and I had no staff. So I hired two girls, Devin Tibbetts and Sam LeClaire. They came with zero experience, which, I mean, makes sense. It's not a job that everybody has a lot of experience in. They did come with customer service experience, which they do very well at. I get so many compliments about the general attitude in my office, you know, and taxpayers and residents coming to do their motor vehicle registrations and such, just commenting on what a pleasant experience it is. So that, that's awesome. In the last year, the budget cuts that I did when we went into default, and went line by line, the biggest cut I made was my OT budget and my mileage budgets. I cut that, and left it only for election days, because obviously I need my staff on those days. So it left me with really no extra time to do in-depth training with these girls. So I've been able to teach them, and they've quickly grasped the procedures, but not necessarily the why and the how we do things the way we do them, and how it all ties together. As last year, going forward with the next year, I want to take advantage of every training opportunity I can give my staff and myself, just to grow and learn and better understand all the facets of the job that we do. During this year, my department one of the focuses was on backwater and sewer, and we had liens, which some of them were in arrears of 5 years. With the help of Craig and Brian Jacks, we sent out shut-off notices. We then did a second and third wave of shut-off notices towards the middle and the end of the summer. I'm happy to report that the outstanding water is now within a 45-day range of being due, which is huge considering where we started. The first wave with all of the liens and such netted us a little over $30,000 in backhoe water and sewer, and the subsequent 2 waves that we did over the summer netted us about $10,000 each, as well as for collecting the committed $900,000 in water and sewer rents. That's what they're called, for people who pay them all on time. I also have been taking a look at the payment arrangements that have been in place for backhoe taxes that have not been effective. I went before the Board of Selectmen and presented a new arrangement which requires residents who owe back taxes to pay their current taxes and only make payments towards the back taxes, because in the past, people have been making a $200 payment a month, and it just gets rolled over and over and over, and there has been no progress there. So it is still a work in progress, but we have been successful. I have about 6 new payment arrangements, and I'm reaching out to people in arrears to modify what they have going on now, which is, you know, it's an uncomfortable process that needs to be done. Over the last year, my office has collected $118,000 in taxes dating 2020 and prior. So that's a huge accomplishment. Just to give you a little time, a little year in the life. I started in October 2023, both Samantha and Devin started in November. both feet in, it was tax collecting time. So they came in knowing nothing about the job, nothing about what it was. I mean, you know, we took over the interview process, but you never know till you do it. As well as training to be able to process motor vehicle transactions, as well as vital records, marriage licenses, things of that nature. In December 2023, the Secretary of State's office announced that we are having our January presidential primary, so both feed into the election process. Right after that, we began the lean process for 2024, as well as working after the primary, as well as the town's deliberative session and the town election, and then came our budget revisions, which we're all aware of that. The lien was executed in May, bringing us right into the collection of the first issue tax bills for 2024. In August, we began prepping for our New Hampshire state primary, which was held in September. In the midst of all that fun was preparing and executing the tax deed process, as well as the water and sewer shut-off notices. Added to all of the budget prep and prep for the big election, the New Hampshire state general election, saying that we've been busy is kind of an understatement, and now it's time for the second issue tax bills. So we've had no time, no real downtime for these girls to really grasp the ins and outs of what we do. You know, I mean, it's a big job, and there's a lot of facets to it, and training it's just so key. In the midst of all of that, we processed almost $1.5 million in auto registrations. This is 3 girls in one office. $25,500 in boat registrations, $11,300 in dog licenses, as well as almost $8,000 in vital records. So I say that is a commendation of the teamwork that we have in my office and the willingness to work hard and learn in a default budget, which, you know, goes without saying. I would also like to mention that we are also accountable for every single penny of all of that money that we collected. We have to reconcile with the finance department. We're audited every year by an outside company. I can't tell you guys how proud I am of these girls that are working for me, and they are doing a great job. The teamwork, the camaraderie is excellent. I hear it every day from the residents how much they appreciate it. It's just been immeasurable. And not only that, but throughout the entire town hall and all of our department heads and everybody working together, it's a pleasure to go to work. You know, it's hard, it's tough. Obviously, we're facing some tough things, but I'm glad to be back. It's been a good, challenging, but good year, so.
Welcome back.
I wanna thank you for that letter you sent me today.
Oh, you're welcome. You gotta do your civic duty, Ron, come on. Do your part.
I got one too, so.
As did I. You know.
I'm not getting my mail tonight. That means
It doesn't
I'm-
help.
Don't get the mail.
All right, I'll take a motion.
All right, 0141400101 to 0141405005.
Second.
Discussion.
You plan on hiring another clerk?
No, not at this time. There was 2 years ago, or was that proposed?
So as Cynthia was on her way to retire and the workload on what I call the back office, the administrative office between finance, HR, and assessing, we kind of felt a need to have a position and have it be shared. There really wasn't enough use of one person in the town clerks, and I definitely could have used a whole body, but we decided to share, and then when we had the default, we decided not to fund that shared position there, and instead we had we hired a full-time finance clerk, and my finance director's part-time, so my girl in the back kind of does kind of a little this and that, and so that position, and when Jen came, we kind of, you know, I allowed her the opportunity to see if she really felt it was needed in her office, and she agreed that it wasn't at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why you mainly see the decrease, and the difference, and that would have been shared in the, executive office, the other half.
And like Karen's budget, my budget is mainly contracts, for the software that we use to process all our transactions employees. You know, I mean, office supplies are office supplies, we definitely need those, conferences and dues and training and mileage. Went up a little bit, like I said, I have very new staff. It's down from the requested from 2024, but up from the default. You know, they just need all the knowledge that they can get, and then going to these workshops and conferences is just, it's so helpful. And you also develop a network of people that you can rely on to reach out to if you have a question or something that's come up that you haven't dealt with before, or, you know, is a little quirky, which I definitely reached out over this past year to my network, which, you know, I built over years and then left and came back, but it's just, yeah.
And then you can see in your notes that it's a -1% decrease over the default and a -14% decrease over the requested.
How much is actually owed in back taxes by people?
Oh gosh, I do not have that number. I can't tell you that. As far as the 2024 first issue, we have collected 98%. There's just a certain group of people that, I don't wanna say it hasn't been ignored, but it hasn't been specifically addressed, that we're not gonna take it. I wanna say to quote Twisted Sister, but you know, it's just, we all pay our taxes, I pay my taxes, you know, it's part of home ownership, and it is what it is. So I've been really aggressive this year in reaching out to people, obviously trying to work with everybody, you know, we're not a Gestapo situation or anything like that, but I wanna continue that going into the next year. Excuse me.
It used to be that if you didn't pay your taxes, if someone else came along, paid your taxes, and they had a lien on it, and they would end up with the property if they didn't pay your taxes.
I believe that's illegal now, Ron.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, that's how a lot of
I've heard that
land
before.
got acquired over the years, because they knew, but back then the taxes weren't much, maybe $50 or $25. They would pay it, and then they would end up owning the property. So.
Yes, well now, as far as back owed taxes and liens, you have to be the property owner, or if they've passed a direct heir, in order for us to even legally go into payments.
Don, is that number something you would like to have for your next meeting?
Would be helpful, not to know.
Okay. So the amount owed in back taxes?
Yes, thanks.
I know there's a lot of people that, you know, they're struggling to get by, and
Sure.
especially elderly, and they've lived there, you know, their whole life, and I know what it's like being a retired person, and you gotta build it. The values keep going up, and then at some point you say, I just can't pay this anymore. I know some people that are down on the lake, and, you know, they had a camp there since, you know, the second or third generation, and they're just getting forced out, so, anyway.
I do understand that, and if somebody calls my office and it reaches out to me, I have a couple of programs that I am aware of, obviously, outside what the town offers. Obviously, there's time limitations, like you can't apply till March 1st, and you have to have it in by like April 2nd or something like that, but we do full-on make people aware. As long as you, or as long as residents, taxpayers, are in communication, you know, I've been there, I brought myself up from living in subsidized housing with 2 kids as a single mom, and
Yep.
it's a lot of hard work, and I understand that we're not heartless by any means, but there are quite a few that take advantage of the situations, and then they're $150, and
Yep.
that's it. And that is also a burden on people in other situations, so.
And you still have the program that if they're elderly with little money, then the town,
We have the elderly exemption, there's a disabled exemption, there's the veterans credit.
Right.
Blind.
You can, blind, you can, apply for hardship abatements, I mean, and it is all written right on the tax bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Well,
call us, you know?
it's good, but a lot of people, you know, when they're looking at what the budget is and all of that stuff, but how much money that the town for exemptions, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars that are not collected because they're exempt, because they're a veteran or something like that, so it's not always, the way it seems, that the town is trying to, take their money or whatever, but you look at the list in the town report, there's a long list of veterans and people that are getting that $500 exempt.
And in my opinion, they earned it, they,
Well, I understand that, but a lot of people disregard that and say, oh, geez, my taxes are going up, but, you know, we're doing something for the vets too.
Yeah.
Right. You have to,
the
some,
key to all this is you have to ask, you have to apply. We're not gonna call you up, I mean, we sent out 4,200 tax bills. Like, I can't be like, hey, Tracy, I noticed, you know, whatever. That's not the way it's ever gonna
No.
work. There's no way it's possible, so, you know, people need to reach out. You know, we're not trying to screw people over, that's, you know, we're just
well, no,
trying to run a beautiful, lovely town and.
but I'm just saying that there are some perks that veterans are getting.
Yes.
You know, if they complain, well, you're getting $500 off, but the guy next door is not a veteran, he's helping you out, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I personally think the veterans should get more than 500.
Well, then your tax bill's your tax rate's gonna go up, so that's all right.
Isn't there a cap on that amount? Do you know?
Yes, there is.
The state, I believe, has a cap. I don't think.
I know we're at the higher end.
Yeah, 500 is the max, I think.
I think so too. It
If
might
you-
be
they-
750,
other towns have
I think it's 500.
150, 250, something like that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was what, time flies, 3-4 years ago that we increased it to that amount, if I remember.
It's been within the time.
That you've been
I worked
here,
for the
so,
town.
okay, so within the last.
It's always been 500 for the town.
Well, I started back in 2012 and I don't think it was that much at that time. I believe it has increased.
Was it
since then.
3? Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think we did increase.
Thank you.
Further questions?
If you want to touch upon Ron's, comment, we currently give, or I guess you would not write it off, but it's a I don't wanna say burden, but the exemption that's spread throughout everyone else. We have, 45,000 for the blind exemption. We have 5.1 million in elderly exemptions, 2.5 million in disabled exemptions, 1.1 million in solar exemption or credit, and, the veterans, different range. 255,600.
So I would just like to reiterate, we're discussing the clerk's, budget, but in clerk income, we have brought in $1.5 million so far this year with a projection of about 400,000 more just in motor vehicle registrations, so that's where we're at with that.
Motor vehicles slide off a little bit because of the sales of motor vehicles been down.
No,
No.
it's actually right in line with last year,
Okay.
but the cost is outrageous, like people come in, you buy a brand new truck, you're gonna pay over $1,000 for registration, it's gross, but.
The last time I was in registering something, it was a new New Hampshire resident that had never registered a vehicle in New Hampshire before, and they just about choked.
Like, we're sitting there, we're like, are
I'm
you
like,
ready for
no
your
sales tax
total?"
though, sir. No sales tax.
That's why I drive old vehicles.
Same.
I have seen there's no more comments. All those in favor?
She was still reading off.
No, she
Did you
got through
finish?
them all.
Yep, that X out of it.
So what's that
Two-
bottom line?
There's a few different categories there, so.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Not to mention, we also have the, commercial exemption, which is around $7 million.
much was it?
I think about 16 million.
16 million.
I think so, yep. 5 million in the elderly, 2.5 in the disabled, 1 million in solar. I mean, that's almost 9 million right there. Plus the 7 million for the commercial, so that's 9 and 7 is 16 million.
See, the reason why I'm asking that, because this goes out over the air. People are not aware of how much money that the town gives in exemptions, so.
Or aware that they just have to ask. I would be a new solar exemption person who's had her solar for 3 or 4 years before she knew to go in and ask for that.
Yeah, just come on in.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen.
So now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ayes.
Abstained? So moved.
All right, as recommended by the selectmen of $143,323.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstains? So moved. All right, John. Excellent.
Oh, do you wanna speak about it, or?
Do you wanna share anything else about the elections, Jen?
I'm so glad they're done. There you go. It was a lot of work, just in the last one, we had over 4,300 people vote in person, plus 350 absentee ballots that all had to be processed on that day. Like, we do that as if we are that person standing there. We have to check in the name, we have to open the envelopes, we have to put the ballots through the ballot machine. It's a ton of work, it's a ton of work. And, you know, people aren't very nice, and they yell at you, and they make snide comments constantly. In town hall over the last month and a half before the election, if you come in, we have people all over town hall casting their ballots. We're doing motor vehicle registrations, you know, everybody's got something to say. It was a lot, it was very stressful, and, yeah, I had to take spa day. It was a lot, but glad that they're done. But they all went very well. Like I said, my staff has just stepped right up, trying their best. We took a lot of training through the Secretary of State's office, which are just riveting. And, yeah, I think overall, they were all a success.
Take a motion?
I'll move 0141411101 to 0141419999.
Second.
Discussion?
Hold on,
I think she's missing a page.
I'm missing a page.
The elections?
I haven't got it.
Yes,
Right.
Nothing.
Elections and registrations, number
There
of,
we go. Share.
Number 10.
There you go, just take that one.
number 10.
Tyke, do you have an extra one?
Right, good question.
You're
I'm
the
sorry,
man.
I couldn't,
Odds are, you do.
they set you up for that one, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
kinda.
I ain't coming next
We
week.
appreciate you.
You're an easy mark.
All right, so now I'll say, discussion?
I will say, as I stated before, this is a budget that, is blown way out of the water. The default was 11,315. I just did the numbers today to the actuals, and we're at 21,865. That should go up really much more because we are all done for the year. I think the supervisors who checked us may have one meeting for the end of the year.
I don't
Set
believe
up year
so.
out, or-
Oh, yes, I think so.
So, yeah, it's one of those budgets that we now have to make up the difference somewhere else, but, yes. And then I could tell Jen, hey, you don't have to hold any elections this year.
Darn it. One increase that I did make is in, 260, I think it is, 4141, 260, the printing. That is what covers the cost of printing the town ballots. And hopefully, we have a better turnout this year than we have. So we want to, I just wanted to have that to allow
In this election, you're lucky you had enough ballots. That was a big turnout.
It was, yeah, we broke into our last box, I had brought the additional absentees that we had left over just in case. And then if we do run out, the Secretary of State's office authorizes myself as the town clerk to make photocopies, but you know how that would've gone over, so thank God we did that. So, yeah.
And we're lucky we can get 700 for town meeting, 800.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
Do you want to join me for
Well-
this one? Mr. Foster?
Oh, we got just one more
Oh, I'm
housekeeping thing, sorry.
$12,937 as recommended by the selectmen.
That was a second by
Was that a second?
Heike.
Oh,
He said
yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Could you say that number again, Ron? I'm sorry.
12,937?
I have 12,637, but I.
You go
Oh.
with selectmen's column.
We're going with the
Oh, as
selectmen's column.
requested.
We're going with the selectmen's.
I went with the selectmen's.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds good.
What was the excess?
All those in favor?
You don't,
Opposed?
you don't need an extra
Abstain.
$300.
So moved.
You don't need that extra $300.
Oh, sure I do. Kidding.
So, tax collector finance. Rachel, did we give you that one?
What's that?
Tax collector finance, do you have that one, under 11?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Going to Frank?
Financial? What are we doing?
Sorry, I feel like my
Ask
fingers
you.
are red.
Yeah.
Financial administration.
Steve's doing it, right?
No, you seem really relaxed this year. You seem really relaxed this year.
I'm prepared this year, so thank you
All
for
right.
noticing.
I like your Hollywood
Ha-
outfit.
front of Congress.
I know, right? True.
Go right ahead.
Okay. My name's Steve Forster. I'm the finance director here. I started March of '23 as the finance clerk. Then within 3 or 4 months, at that point, the finance director departed, left, went to another town. I remained as the clerk. We brought in another finance director at that point. I worked closely with her, and really at that point was kind of doing most of the work at that point. So come February of '24, I took the role as finance director. So this is my first budget meeting, first process going through this, so it's a nice learning experience. Essentially, everything that you see in this book, all the numbers come through my office, all of it. So I'm responsible for paying all the bills, accounts payable, payroll, make sure everyone gets paid, make sure payroll taxes get paid, make sure New Hampshire retirement gets paid on a monthly basis, make sure, what else? Healthcare gets paid for all the employees. Work with Jen to reconcile all the revenue that comes into her office, which is essentially all the revenue, predominantly all the revenue in the town. So Jen and I work closely with that. So this job, really, it's a 1.5 to 2 person job. So for the majority of the time that I was here, at least as the finance director, I was by myself. So in the end of May, we hired a finance clerk, my old position, Crystal Jacobs. She works part-time with me, and then part-time with Alicia and Colleen and everyone else. I've said this during the selectmen's meeting, but she's been a tremendous hire for myself, for this town, in my opinion. She's very bright. She's hardworking, and I think she really likes it here, which is very important. So that seems to be working out very well. We've also, because I'm, she works with me, and that's been extremely valuable, again, for myself, but for the town, because what we're, we discover is, it's a different set of eyes. I think what happens is, regardless if it's new finance directors here for 15, 20 years, the trend is kind of do what the other person did for the most part. And, I think what we're finding is some efficiencies, create efficiencies, get rid of duplication that might have existed. So that's been very helpful, again, I think, for myself as well as the town. When I first started, just to give you kind of a quick background, the town was a little in disarray as far as employees were concerned. I mean, Jen's office, was in flux. Planning had people moving around. I mean, every department really had moving around parts. I would say, starting kind of at the beginning of 2024, I noticed a big change. Within the personnel, we've made, I think, some great hires, certainly in Jen's office, but planning, they just hired an old gentleman, Rod Cameron, and then a new person, John Carly.
Yes,
Crowley.
Crowley.
And then with the addition to Crystal, just all these new hires of, I've witnessed as a semi-outsider, have really made this town work pretty well. And I think we can all thank Alicia for that. I mean, no one works harder in this town than Alicia, and she's responsible for everything that goes on here, and everything goes through her office before our office. So she should be commended as well. I don't think she's often commended, but she should be. Puts together these meetings, people are going through her office. I won't want her job if you pay me twice, which you and I mean that.
Oh, I agree with you.
So, I think I got to see it from kind of an outsider, now an insider. I'm happy to work here. I think everything's kind of looking up from here, as a lot of people have said. All the department heads I get to work with, really everybody, because I always have questions for everybody in each department. I certainly work with all the department heads, and I will tell you, anytime I make a phone call because I need something, it's almost amazing how quickly things get to me. I mean, this is like a private organization, really, how, one, how much people care, but two, how good they are, what they do, and then three, how efficient they are. These are department heads, in some cases, like Craig and Fire, they're running around. So when you call them, you wouldn't expect them to be able to get you the information you need. And they always get it. And then, Fire has a tremendous assistant over there. She's been here about a year now. And police has a great assistant. She's been here for 30 years. So I think we've all worked pretty closely at this point. I think we've, now that I've done it long enough, kind of became almost like a team. They catch my mistakes, I catch their mistakes, and then there's no mistake once the final product kind of hits. So that, in a nutshell, kind of what I do, what I see, and as far as the budget, I don't really have one. I don't really spend money. Haven't purchased a paperclip since I've been here, so I don't know. I don't know if it would be.
He borrows.
He's stealing that.
Yes, he comes in and he's like, makes a copy, he's like, hey, you got a paperclip for this?
I ordered one corkboard, and I think it was like $19, so. And then I also share some lines, that's why I'm sitting with Jen, I share some lines with her, training and conferences. I will reiterate, with what Jen says. I've noticed as you become more aware of kind of how municipalities work, and it does take time, and she was mentioning that, with her staff. It does take time for municipality work to kind of sink in, and for you to get it. You do go through the motion, and you can do the job, but it takes a while for it to click in, and when it clicks in, it's like, that's why I've been doing it. So, what I've noticed is any conferences that I see now, it's like, or whatever, so I do think they're valuable.
Agreed.
But that's just kind of, again, why I'm sitting here, you know, we share some of this budget, so.
I would just like to reiterate, this year so far, we have collected over $12.6 million in both 2024 current and back-out taxes, and this does not include the 2024 second issue taxes, which, as we all know, just came out. And that committed amount being a little over $12 million, so, and that's through my office, so, yeah.
And I don't wanna leave out one last person, Colleen, who is the employee of the year, by the way.
Yes, she
If you
is.
guys didn't know that. Also, when I was kinda by myself, so the two finance, directors had left, you know, at the time, we were kinda coming up on year end, and year end's a nightmare, in this position. So, November, December, it was impossible for one person, and still is impossible for one person to do the job towards that. In general it is, but certainly at the end of the year. So without that, in 2023, none of it would have been done. Alicia stepped up, Colleen stepped up, and then I stepped up, and that's really the only way we would have got through that. I mean, there's so much to do. It won't happen this year, but it would have been impossible, if they didn't do the work with me, so. All right, I'll stop.
I'll take a motion.
And I'll move zero one,
Kiwi.
I'll move 0141501101 to 0141509999.
Second.
So moved. Discussion?
I would just like to point out that lines 4150-230 tax collector postage and 4150-260 tax collector printing have consistently been flip-flopped. So that is the huge difference in the requested amount. It's the same amounts, but the wrong stuff was being coded into the wrong, budget
Gotcha.
line. So that's why the printing went so much up and the postage went so much down.
Makes sense.
And this is the budget where we took out the other shared half of that clerk position.
Correct.
That I spoke of earlier. I will just touch base on 4150-401, the audit. So each year we have to complete an audit of all our financials. We do split the audit cost between the library, water and sewer. I did add extra in this year as the quote for next year's audit has increased, as well as there is a high likely that we'll have a federal single audit. And when we have a federal single audit, that's an extra audit that we have to do. And basically that is if the town spends, 750,000 worth of federal funds or grants, then we have to get audited on that. In between all of the grants that we finally, have been accepted and getting people hired into those positions, as well as we will be spending the, most likely we'll be spending the ARPA funds that we received a few years ago, so that will trigger that federal audit. So that's why that line looks a little larger than normal.
That's the line I was actually staring at, so thank you.
Who do we use for the auditing?
Vashon.
Vashon
Vashon.
Gay.
Okay.
I think they're out of Manchester.
The audit's usually in the front of the book.
It is not.
Hmm?
It is not. The 23 audit wasn't finalized yet, and when it is, it will be on the website.
Okay.
It's very lengthy, so I did not want to print it. If you were that interested, it's probably a couple hundred pages.
So this is the part where we're supposed to be discussing the taxes, just like.
We'll do better next year.
You will, huh?
Yep. Sorry. Just looking to see if that was my mom. All right, I'll ask. Are you part-time? Is that what the PT after your last name
I'm
is?
budgeted for 32 hours.
Okay, gotcha. Any further questions? Barring no more questions, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes? So moved.
Okay. $367,935 as opposed by this, requested by the selectmen.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you. That,
So you said all your, time that you've been here. Here is 100 years between the two of us in the town.
and yet when I called your father time in July, you got mad.
Well, I have to defend myself.
They call me a thief.
And you had the evidence.
Yeah.
So we don't meet again until next Tuesday. We're back to just the Tuesdays. That
Yeah.
Thursday was the one. Police, fire, emergency management, and government buildings. Any,
Second.
all those in favor?
All right, tonight.
So moved. Oh wait, anybody opposed? Just remember, we are still recording until we hear Colleen tell us we're not. It'll be a
I'm gonna
good
tell
2 to 3
my wife they
minutes.
fired me.
Yeah?
I'm gonna get home early and then tell my wife you guys fired me.
Exactly.
That's because you can't keep track of paperwork.
Oh, isn't that terrible?
Oh.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
My mother is in a facility.
So she went down to, for rehab, down to, it used to be called.
Quick and
called
easy.
South,
I like it.
It's now called the Compass. It's right on the property. So, because she really, she can't stand from the pain. So, that's where she needs to be. I asked her about moving today, and she did get out of bed, but they, you know, they have all these cool tools.
She must be so depressed.